Hey there, my name's Niandra and this is a VOD review of a 2.6k SR game. One of the notes for this one was that Lino felt they tried hard to win and had really good stats with high damage amplified and low deaths, but struggled due to teammates. Basically my attitude with that sort of thing is that you absolutely get matches where your teammates aren't great, but it's better to focus on your own play so you're not making mistakes in the matches where your teammates are good. So that's what we're going to do here, and after watching this VOD a few times, I do feel like Lino was put in quite a few tough positions. So Lino's team is the red one and they begin by running Mercy Brig for healing. This is a pairing I am not an expert on because you just don't see it that often. I do know that it can be quite tough to run, and a few minutes in Brig does switch to Moira. I think when that happens you can definitely see a shift where Lino's team immediately starts having a slightly easier time. To start off with some very minor feedback, Lino super jumps and keeps their camera view focused on the 2 DPS while Rein is pushing up to the choke and potentially out of range. Again, pretty minor, but since Brig threw a health pack to McCree, it could be worth flicking damage boost on Hanzo since he's probably given himself a really good angle on the enemy team.
Right beside you. I've got you covered. That's how you do it. New damage boost engaged.
So Lino revives McCree, which is fine, then super jumps off Rein. Their Brig is trapped next to their Rein, but it's hard to see due to visual clutter. After getting in the air, Lino flies to McCree and ends up far away from point. So let's break this down. Generally, Lino wanted to heal Brig, and I came up with 2 alternative plays. First of all, after super jumping, Lino could hang in the air between their split allies. This carries the risk of being hooked by Hog, however you can see here that he missed it. Alternatively, after reviving McCree, they could have stayed put in this house and peeked from cover. If they kept their camera view moving around like this, instead of just focused on Brig and Rein, they could have potentially shifted from one side to another. A damage boosted Rein on the objective is genuinely pretty scary, so I do feel you want to position in a way that gives you the option to do it. Anyway, it is a shame this was a lost fight since Lino's team did have a strong start. In my personal opinion, rezzing this close to spawn isn't ideal, especially when you've got decent time left on the clock. This means if Lino's team is aggressive, they can't revive anyone while on the objective, or it might end up wasted if someone else gets picked off. This is something I'm especially careful with when the enemy team is running Mercy as well, because if Lino's team pushes in, their team doesn't have res, but the enemy does.
You should be at peak performance level. Mercy in the right of heroes never die.
Enemy Junkrat uses Riptire and Lino's in Valk, which is great to avoid it. I would be careful about dipping down towards allies with Guardian Angel when Tyre is active though. Remember, Valkyrie doubles initial beam length, so it's not like Lino needs to be next to Rein to heal him.
Damage.
A little bit of fumbling with Guardian Angel there, but that's okay.
Let's get you back out there. Let me get you patched up.
Okay, so Lino basically trapped enemy Mercy outside the fight. I low-key love this, but my official thoughts are definitely you should be helping your allies on the objective. Again, the other healer is Brig and Lino's back is to the team, meaning they aren't aware of their state. Now, enemy Ana is dead, so this play denies the defender's on-point healing, or it would if the enemy wasn't running Roadhog. This play means Ball dies and Lino goes to the res, which I think could have been left. Lino's team has definitely won the fight and is probably going to cap before Ball respawns, which means he'd respawn here and can get back fast enough. I would consider falling onto here and pocketing Farah from it until she moved out of beam range because it provides some decent cover against this McCree.
You should be at peak performance.
Lino notices that no one is on the payload and falls back to it. This is an unfortunate position to be in since Mercy really doesn't want to be the cart pusher, especially when it would leave the team with only Brig for healing. I think you can debate whether they should have fallen back at all, but once Lino spotted Brig coming to the payload, I would definitely start pushing up again. You really don't want both healers on cart while allies are engaging. It's better for the cart to just move a bit slower and your team remain more stable, because if they're pushed up, then enemies won't be touching the cart at all.
Keep it coming. Where does it hurt? My ultimate is ready. Stream engaged. We still need you. Damage boost engaged. I am in power.
Like earlier, Lino should be pushing up to help teammates instead of pushing the cart, especially since friendly Hanzo is on it. It's better to push the cart slowly, team wipe the enemy, then push fast while they respawn, than it is to push the cart faster for less time because the enemy force attackers to regroup. Once a couple of allies had dropped, I would probably look to super jump onto high ground since enemy Roadhog has no mobility, and it would let Lino safely fall back if they felt the fight was definitely lost. You will notice that Brig has gone Moira and Lino looks to fall back. They then turn around and expose themselves to enemies since this allows them to heal Ryan faster than if they had gone through the castle. This positioning choice allows enemy Anna to tag them twice. Okay, I'm gonna let this little kerfuffle play out, then commentate on it when it's over.
I'm here. Behind you. Much better.
Okay, that was a lot. The main thing I noted here is that at some point Lino backs off towards the doorway before stepping back in. This means that Lino had the opportunity to walk away from this at the expense of reviving Moira, which I think is fine because Soldier is also dead. The body block GA earlier on was also unfortunate. I think crouch GA generally reacts better to that sort of thing. Personally, I think the main issue here was that friendly Moira faded into the room, which then left her fighting a hog at close range with no escape option. If she had lingered in the doorway, she could have maybe thrown a heal orb in and provided Mercy a way out.
Allow me to repair the damage. Cease your resistance. Heroes never.
Using Valkyrie as Bull kills himself is a little unfortunate, but I think overall this Valkyrie's pretty solid. My only issue is that GA towards the payload since Lino has no need to contest, but it puts them closer to enemies. Plus, their original corner peek was really nice. Bit of a risky res since you can hear Hog clomping around and don't really have sight on him. Lino is gonna leave Moira with Hog to help Ryan contest the objective. That GA is kind of my main issue. I do think Lino is caught in an awkward position, but when the team is split like this, I feel it's best to try and stay in the middle rather than focus on one side. Maybe standing on this platform would have been good enough protection.
Ich kümmere mich um sie. Don't let up on them.
Step Rider.
Right beside you.
Thankfully, the team is able to get some good momentum from both DPS ults being used. There's some nice jukes in here and solid damage boost usage. Overall, really good stuff. To be nitpicky, I think Lino could have gotten away with damage boosting injured Soldier as enemy Doomfist uppercutted him, but that's okay.
Performance levels.
Like earlier, if the other healer is staying on cart, then Lino definitely should be pushing up here, especially since this area has these really nice platforms for Mercy to super jump on. Since Franny Moira is currently ulting and Lino has Valkyrie, any healing here that could be left for Moira once Coalescence was finished would be ideal, but I think the way Lino played here was fine anyway.
I'm with you. Operating at optimal levels. Let's get you back out there.
It's really great to see Lino push up to damage boost the DPS here instead of staying on the cart. Overall, again, I think this Valkyrie is strong. The damage boost usage is really nice. Although Lino didn't have sight on the enemy before using ults, you can generally assume they're around the corner, so I think the timing's okay too. Honestly, I would just prioritize my own safety over McCree here. If he's not looking to quickly fall back, I would have no remorse over writing him off. With so little time left on the clock, you really don't want to prolong his death or give the enemy 2 kills instead of just 1.
30 seconds.
I think I noticed it earlier, but Lino could maybe react faster to allies getting hooked, but it's Ryan with Moira nearby, so not the end of the world here.
I'm moving the payload.
Okay, so the biggest thing to keep in mind is that it's overtime, and it's defender's job to wipe attackers off the payload, which is where Lino is positioning. I'd either hang further back or super jump to one of these ledges to help the team from above. Lino uses Valkyrie and positions on the payload. They keep themselves moving, and there's some really nice use of ducking. However, unless they really didn't trust their team to contest, I'd absolutely play a bit further back. However, I completely understand if Lino didn't trust their team to contest. Honestly though, 2 allies died before them and it wasn't looking great either way, so even if Lino had lived, it might not have actually mattered. Anyway, let's move on to round 2. I did sympathise with Lino a lot on this one because their McCree ends up out of position quite a few times. Starting the round off, I like this. The positioning is decent and keeping the camera view on allies further back is a really good idea. That being said, I'd probably hold off on damage boosting McCree until I saw him start shooting to avoid giving away my own position. McCree gets knocked off high ground and Lino goes right, which would expose them to the choke. Going left and lingering in the doorway would have been safer. Like, keep in mind, McCree had his combat role to make distance from the choke.
Damage increase. This is not your time. Let's get you back out there.
As McCree walks off screen down a corridor, Lino flies towards their allies in the back. I don't really think they could have done much to help McCree, but flicking your camera view and turning around during Guardian Angel is generally a good habit to get into. With the untimely death of McCree, it looks like the team is falling back to the objective, so Lino could match that movement and fall back further themselves. Another really solid Valkyrie. My only note is that I would probably try to position off to the side rather than directly above the fight since the enemy is running McCree. He doesn't have ult yet, but might as well be safe. Lovely damage boost on McCree there, but yeah, just really not much you could have done for him. Both tanks die, and Lino seems a bit unsure on where to position. I would assume this objective is just lost and look to fall back, maybe hang around the outskirts like this if I wanted to be my teammates.
Objective lost. Ich bin da. Smoke him out of there. We make a great team.
Just generally, I would look to fall back with Ashe since Sigma died and he's playing a main tank role. However, that death was a fucking plot twist. I did not see that coming. I don't even know what to say about it honestly, besides unlucky, I guess. Toggle Guardian Angel off would have allowed Lino to catch up with that McCree, although it looks like they didn't really want to. With at least 3 dead allies and 2 enemy ults used, I consider this fight firmly lost. Lino gives up their high ground to try and help, which is admirable, but honestly I wouldn't bother. Personally, I'd use the protection of high ground to fall back unnoticed. In this instance, Lino does a great job at making it back alive with Ashe, but they might not be so fortunate in future. I just wouldn't want to risk staggering here.
You needed a doctor?
Ready to deploy.
Heroes never die.
Step Rider.
Great team.
We still need you. Get up.
Damage boost engaged. Right beside you. You should be at peak performance levels. Behind you. Damage Damage increase. Let's get you back out there.
Activating the barrier. Barrier is unstable.
Sharp, push down.
How's your blood?
You needed a bit more? Damage increase. Let's get you back.
I'm gonna be quite honest with you, I really didn't have many thoughts on this last segment because Lino's team just kind of gets staggered and the enemy team knows to push up on it. I really don't think there was much they could have done, and their teammates just needed to be a bit more cognizant of Roadhog's hook range.
Where does it hurt?
One of Lino's comments was that they sometimes struggle to pick out individual targets when allies are grouped together, and I noticed it a little bit in this end segment. One thing that maybe could have helped was super jumping onto the platform above them, then beam allies while looking down on them.
Where does it hurt?
It's time.
I would probably go for the safer res on Anna in the back, but at this point I don't really think it matters. So yeah, there we go, a really unfortunate loss. Honestly, I think Lino did pretty good. There's a lot in their performance that I did like. The Valkyries are nice, damage boost is great, and I wish them luck on their future games. Thank you for watching and have a nice day.